Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I am Mackie. Sid is not here right now. This is my video, it is all about me. Sid is going to do one next week, so make sure you subscribe so that you get to see that one as well. Also, welcome to our first ever premiere. We have never done a YouTube premiere before. We're really excited about it. If you don't know what it is, which we didn't until like a week ago, when all of a sudden there was like a little thing on our YouTube upload that said, you now have access to YouTube premieres. And we were like, what are YouTube premieres? So we looked into it, and basically it allows us to pre-record a video like I am right now, upload it, and then when it's scheduled, it goes up like a live video. So it starts at a certain time and it plays through, and you can't skip forward, but you can skip backwards. Basically, it's a live video. But what's really cool is instead of us being on the camera and like trying to interact with sometimes not the best internet ever, we get to record the video, upload it, and then watch it with you guys at the same time. So both of us are watching this video with you right now. We are here to answer questions, have discussions, talk about whatever you guys want in the comment section, or in the chat section. So, hit us up, say hello. If you have any questions, put them in there. We will answer ASAP. But this is going to be a good format, I think, for us because, as many of you know, we very rarely have good internet. We can usually get stuff uploaded because I edit it like multiple days ahead of time and then spend an entire day uploading it. Our internet is not good enough for live streaming. We've done, I think, 2 of them, maybe 3. One of them was at Brian BKXC's house, and he has spectacularly good internet. Unfortunately, that internet is not available at my folks' place where we are right now, nor is it available on 4G, which is what most of our internet is. We have Verizon plans with unlimited 4G, and so that's how we're able to upload videos and post stuff and all that kind of stuff. But very rarely is it actually good enough to do a live video. So this is a neat mix of watching it live, getting to chat with you guys live, but not having to have good enough internet to actually do a live video. So we're really hoping that it goes well and that you guys like this format because we'd like to do more of these. We're going to do this one today in this format, and then assuming it goes well and you guys like it and it's successful, then Sid will do her How I Got Here one in a week, and then the week after that we have another one, which I'll tell you guys about in a little bit. So anyway, thanks for being here. This video is a bonus video about how I got here, focused on my kind of mountain bike career and path as a professional mountain bike racer. This topic was chosen by our Patreon team. So if you want to help choose the next one, obviously our next premiere is going to be Sid's version of this video, but if you want to help choose the next bonus video, we've had some really cool ones. Come join us on Patreon. Our Patreon team gets to first come up with ideas, pitch them to us. We choose our 3 favorites, and then, or sometimes more than 3, and then let you guys vote on them. So if you want to be involved with that, check us out on Patreon. I don't know if you can do cards in YouTube premieres, so if you can, there'll be a card. If you can't, then it will be down there. We'll put it in the super chat. So anyway, thank you guys for being here. I'm really excited about this one. I actually had a blast figuring out how to do this video. It involved me going through a lot of really old photos, which was hilarious. So I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I enjoyed putting it together. I'm going to start off with a little bit of an overview, just give you guys some statistics and some facts, and then I'll go into kind of a more chronological how I started mountain biking and then how I ended up where I am. I will do my best to include photos. I think there's one video, but you guys have seen our videos, so it'll be mostly photos. There's a little bit of a gap at the point where digital cameras were getting popular, but photo sharing on the internet was not popular. So we took photos with digital cameras and then didn't actually do anything with them. So those ones have kind of disappeared, but I was able to find some pretty good photos. I think they're hilarious. I have my computer right here because I took some notes on things I wanted to mention. So if I'm looking down, that's why. Let's see. Okay, stats. I have these stats because I have a database of all of the races I've ever done, where they were, and what category I raced, and how I did. Yes, I am a dork. It is true. So in my career as a racer, I've raced 357 races. I've raced cross country, downhill, obviously enduro, road races, cyclocross races, single speed races, Super D races, cross country eliminator, short track, circuit races, criteriums, time trials, marathon races, stage races, and 24-hour races. So pretty much most mountain bike disciplines except BMX, which I don't know if you even count as mountain bike discipline. No BMX and no trials. I would love to learn how to do trials well, but that is something I have not learned. Of those 357 races, I've won 55 of them. So that's like a seventh. And then finished in the top 3 at an additional 56 of them. So that's another seventh. I've raced on 14 countries. You can see them here. On 5 continents and in 25 US states. So exactly half of them, I guess. I've raced 29 national championships and been on the podium at 9 of those 29. The first time was in 2005 as a junior expert at cross country national champs. Then a year later in 2006 as a semi-pro when I won a Stars and Stripes jersey. So that's the jersey you get when you win. So this was a semi-pro Stars and Stripes jersey at short track, and then also 5th place in the cross country. In 2010, I was on 3 national championships podiums. First at 24-hour nationals in Moab, I believe they were that year. I was on a 4-man team, and our team ended up 2nd. And then Division II Collegiate Mountain Bike Nationals in Truckee, California. Yeah, at North Star. I was 2nd in the short track and 3rd in the cross country. Then I've been on the podium twice for Super D. Once was in 2011 when I was 5th, and then in 2012 when I was 3rd. So those were all national championships. After that, I started racing enduro and stopped going to national championships because for a long time there was no enduro national championships. And then last year was my first time back. I'll put a card to that in the official, or when this is not a premiere, there'll be a card. Like I said, if cards can be used in this, I'll put a card to it. But yeah, last year we went to national championships. I ended up 7th despite some mechanicals, so that was a bummer. All right, since starting to ride, I have owned 24 mountain bikes and 4 road/cyclocross bikes. That's kind of ridiculous. I was going to talk about them, and then I realized that it's really a pretty awesome list and is kind of a cool flashback, and probably a lot of you guys had some of these bikes that I had. So I'm just going to do a full video of just about my bikes. So that'll happen in 2 weeks as a premiere. So subscribe so that you can get a notification about that. At different times in my career, I've raced for Giant, Yeti, Orbea, Oscar Blues, Pivot, and then for the last 3 years, I've been racing for Jameis. I've worked with a bunch of other sponsors, but those have been the kind of big bike sponsors. It's been cool because the last couple of years I've been able to keep my program fairly steady and work with the same sponsors. There's been slight changes here and there, but I like working with the same sponsors because I build a relationship. I can build on the work I've done with them in the past. We get to know one another, and I know what they're looking for and they know what I can provide, and it really is just a much better relationship to keep the same sponsors and not change stuff every year, because that's a pain for everyone. And sort of feels like starting over every time, which is a bummer. I've generally had some say in what sponsors I work with. For the last 6 years, I've been putting together my own program entirely. So I have been the boss, or Sid and I have been the bosses, which is really cool because then we have some friends who race for teams where like they have to run certain tires or certain whatever, but they don't actually like that equipment. And so that's where you get the awkward things of like people pretend like they're running such and such tires, but it's actually blacked out such and such tires. We don't have to do that, which is really cool. We just, if we like a company and we believe in their product, we approach them. And if it works out, then it's awesome. We get to work with them so that we can honestly talk about their product and like recommend their product and not have to be like, yeah, you should ride this and that, but not actually. Like, we don't have to do that, which is really cool. I've been working with a coach and training pretty seriously for 13 years now, except for a year in 2015 when I was really burned out and tired of training and was like, whatever, I don't need a coach, I'll just train myself. That didn't work very well. So now I'm working with a coach again, and he's awesome. I've been making money racing bikes since 2012 and making a living doing it since 2014. So that's kind of an overview. I've been doing this for a long time. So here's a little bit more about the process of how I ended up here. All right, I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana in August of 1987. A year later, so when I was 1, my family moved to Senegal, Africa for my dad's work. And we lived there for 3 years. So from 1 to 4, I grew up on the island of Gorée in Senegal, Africa. Apparently, while we were living there, we went to a friend's house, and that's where I rode my first 2-wheeled bike. I don't remember this because I was 4 or younger, but that's the story that my parents tell. I also could not find any photos proving this, but my mom's memory is pretty good generally, so that's probably true. When we moved back to New Orleans shortly after that, I got a bike for my 4th birthday. Here's a photo of it. It's a little red bike. I really know nothing about it except it was little and red in my first bike. I spent the next 8 years, so from 4 to 12, riding around the French Quarter in New Orleans, which, you know, it's a city, so it wasn't that great, although I got pretty good at riding up and down curbs. There were also no hills, but in the summers we'd go to New Mexico to my family's summer cabin, and I would get to ride like dirt roads and occasional trails and stuff there, so that was really cool. At some point I got a BMX style mongoose, which I really loved, and then it got stolen. So then I got a fully rigid Diamondback, which was the closest thing to a mountain bike that I'd ever had. Looking at it now, it doesn't really look like a mountain bike, except that it had not road bars. Then just before I turned 13, in the year 2000, my family moved to Taos, New Mexico, and my parents enrolled me in an after-school mountain bike program called Fit Taos. It was around that time, either right before or right after, I got a Specialized Stump Jumper FSR. It was so cool because A, it was full suspension, and B, it had matching tires to the bike. They were those, I think they were the Pana Racer, like red and black or red and white tires, and they matched the bike, and that was like the coolest thing ever. So then a couple years of doing the after school program, the people who ran the program, Sean and Susie, were like, hey, there's a mountain bike race just over the mountain in Angel Fire. Like, you should come and try it. And I was like, all right, that sounds great. So this was in 2003. At the time, I was riding a Giant VT2. This isn't actually me in this photo. It's a friend of mine. But that was the bike. It was basically one of the earliest all-mountain bikes. It was way too much suspension for the cross-country race, the first cross-country I did. But that's what I had, so that's what I raced on. And I remember the rear shock didn't have a lockout. And so on the way up the climb, I cranked the rebound on the rear shock all the way slow because like it was so slow that the shock basically wouldn't decompress. And I didn't know what rebound did, so I just figured it was like a weird lockout. Terrible idea, but basically I did that for the climb and then like unscrewed it all the way, so probably I was riding like a pogo stick on the way back down. It was pretty hilarious, but I did end up finishing second in that race. This is actually the first race that I did. This was right afterwards, and my littlest brother looking at my second place medal. So Then I was like, well, I was second. I should move up. At the time, the only other junior category was junior expert instead of junior beginner, which is what I did my first one in. So I raced junior expert in Crested Butte. A couple weeks later, we ended up racing the same distance as the pro men. So for my second ever mountain bike race, I raced 3 10-mile loops. And the only reason I finished in third was because basically everybody else dropped out. So I was stubborn enough not to quit. So I finished third. At one point on like the second or third lap, I got passed by a guy, an older guy in a different category, older compared to, 16-year-old Mackie. But I think he passed me and was like, hey, are you okay? And I was like, no, I need water, because I'd run out of water. And so like this guy gave me his water bottle, and I think he figured I was probably going to die if he didn't give me something to drink. And so he gave me his water bottle, and I survived and was able to finish the race. Not an impressive showing, but I did finish. And after that race, Sean and Susie, who were the ones who got me into mountain biking, basically said that like they knew at that point either I'd love racing or I would never want to touch a bike again. And obviously I decided I loved racing, so here I am. For the next 2 years, so when I was 16 and 17, turning 17 and 18, I raced a couple races a year and had a blast. I never trained or took it seriously, but I loved it, got my whole family into racing, mostly because watching cross-country races is really, really boring. And if you are at the venue anyway, you might as well race because it's more interesting than just watching someone else race. My family was good at it. All 3 of my younger siblings raced for at least a couple years. They have a few New Mexico State championships between them. My dad, who was 62 at the time, started racing and pretty much always won the oldest racer award. I also convinced him to let me use his bike, which was a Giant NRS 2, because it was a much better race bike than my Giant VT2. And so like I would race it and then he would race it, and it was hilarious. But here's a picture of me on the old Giant NRS 2 racing the Norman National in Deer Valley in 2004. And we still have this bike. It actually made an appearance in one of our earlier videos this year from our first ride in Tucson. All right, then 2005, which was my last year as a junior, I was 17 turning 18. I decided to race more seriously, and Sean and Susie they started coaching me, which that was the first time I worked with a coach. I was doing intervals. It was crazy. But it turns out coaching makes a big difference. So I ended that year with a podium at national championships. It was my first ever national championships. I was racing junior expert, and I ended up 4th. So that was super cool. And then I think shortly before that, I got a Giant NRS Carbon 1. So some of you might remember it. It was like the primo cross-country race machine at the time. Lightweight, carbon, full suspension, tubeless wheels, hydraulic disc brakes. It was an amazing bike. I was so in love with it. I raced that bike to that podium, 4th at junior national championships, and the next year to my short track national championships win as a semi-pro. So then after winning short track national championships in 2006, I got my pro card. And for those of you who aren't as into racing, mountain biking's funny because you can have a pro card without actually making money. So it's sort of a misnomer. Like all it means is that you're racing at the highest category. It doesn't actually mean you're making money doing it, but you are racing for prize money. Not surprisingly, moving up to pro, I got my butt handed to me. And it was a bit of a blow because I was like winning at semi-pro, and that was really fun. And then I started racing pro and like basically was dead last. But that was a good thing because by racing pro, I was then eligible to be part of the team, part of Team Devo, which at the time was the premier junior and U23, which is under 23 development team in the country. It was run by a guy named John Kemp and sponsored by Giant, SRAM, Oakley, Maxxis, and a bunch of other companies. The team would get us bikes and pay for entry fees and sometimes travel for the big races. So I got really lucky to get on that team. Like they taught me a lot. they helped me get to races and get the results that I needed to kind of do this more seriously. After 2 years, the team folded, which was a bummer, but I'd been introduced to some of the sponsors, and so I was able to keep relationships with some of them and keep working with a bunch of them for a while after that. So at the same time as this, as racing for Devo, or for the beginning of it at least, I was in college. I went to a small liberal arts school called Middlebury College in Vermont. I was racing collegiate because it was a blast. I raced some collegiate road, cyclocross, and mountain bike. And then when school would get out for the summer, I would hit the circuit basically and just chase cross-country races around the country. It's where Sid and I met at Middlebury. We raced collegiate together, and then I graduated in 2011. So for the next couple years, I worked with a team that switched sponsors pretty much every year. First we raced for Getty, then we raced for Orbea. I raced national cross-country circuits, some stage races, and I even did a half season of single-speed racing on the Oscar Blues Reeb, which now they have a bunch of Reebs, but at the time there was just one Reeb. It was like a progressive hardtail Gates carbon belt drive, which is like the coolest drivetrain ever. I actually won Breck Epic as on a single speed, or Breck Epic single speed that year, because they had claimed the title of Single Speed Stage Race World Championships, or SSSRWC, which really they just were like, this is what we are, and no one argued with them, and so they got to claim that. So I got a non-sanctioned, or a non-UCI sanctioned rainbow jersey, and then later that year, after winning that, I decided to go to South Africa and race Single Speed Worlds, which was really fun. I missed the tattoo, the winner gets a tattoo at Single Speed Worlds, and I missed the tattoo by an inch to South Africa's Olympian Bury Stander. So that was pretty cool. I had a great time, but decided that I preferred racing with gears, so I haven't really raced single speed since. So I graduated from Middlebury with a degree in computer science. I was doing freelance web design to support racing. I was racing cross country and short track, and then started racing Super D, which, for those of you who never raced Super D, was basically mass start enduro. So it was like everyone would line up with your bikes lined up ahead of you. They would say go, you'd run to your bike, jump on it, and then race down, and the first person down won. So it was a pretty entertaining format. I really liked it because I was a decent runner. And I was tired of getting beat up the hills by like the really super light, skinny cross-country guys and then getting stuck behind them. So the more downhill focused format worked pretty well for me. So the next year, 2013, I put together my own program, started working with Pivot, and that was when enduro was coming to the US and getting more popular. And Super D was pretty much dying at that point. So I was like, I'm going to race cross country and enduro. Tried to do it that year, realized that the training was too different and I had to choose one. But I wasn't doing great at either of them. So I decided I liked enduro and committed to doing it, and have been, making that my focus since 2013. At the end of 2013, Sid graduated, started racing pro enduro as well. And together we kind of decided to do the bike racing as a career thing and see if we could pull it off. Her video explaining how she got here will be coming out next week as a premiere, assuming that this one was successful. So subscribe so that you get notifications about that. It'll be next week, same time. So for the next 2 years, 2014 and 15, we both raced for Pivot. Then in 2016, started racing for Jameis, which has been a really good fit for us. They've been super supportive. We've enjoyed working with them. We get along well, love their bikes. It's been really nice. Since switching to enduro in 2013, I've raced 21 Enduro World Series, including a full season in 2015, as well as a bunch of national and regional enduro races. I've raced some enduro stage races, which are really awesome, and a couple non-enduro races, but mostly just local downhill races. So it's pretty much been enduro focused for the past 5 years at this point. I've had a share of podiums, as you guys know, like this year, both at individual races and in series overalls. Obviously, some seasons have been better than others. Last year was a really rough season, and we will put a card or a link to that. Yeah, last season was just rough. A lot of mechanicals, crashes, just not great stuff. This year, on the other hand, has been pretty much amazing. We've had a blast. We've had some good results, and we started sharing this stuff with you guys, which has been really fun. So that is how I ended up here, where I am. It's been crazy. I've been doing it for a long time. Like my first race was, first race was 2003, so that's 15 years ago. Started racing seriously in 2005, so that's 13 years ago. And had my pro card since 2006, so that's 12 years ago. So I've been doing this for a long time, and I love it. I love the bike community. I like the people in the, both on the industry side of things. There's a lot of really awesome people, and on the racing side of things. So I'm just, I'm very, very pleased with how it's all gone and to be part of this awesome bike community. So that pretty much wraps it up. This is your opportunity to ask last questions or comments or whatever. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. It's been really fun not transitioning, but starting to do the YouTube thing as well as racing, and get to kind of share what it's like to train seriously and travel and race. And all of your guys' support has been really cool. Like just the comments and the thumbs up and subscribing, and then our whole Patreon team. Like, you guys have made this really, really fun. And I see it as like the kind of next evolution of my career as a bike racer. So thanks for making that happen. Thanks for being more awesome. Like I said, next week we will have Sid's video of how she got to where she is. And then the following week will be the video of all of my 24 mountain bikes and 4 road/cross bikes. So make sure you subscribe so that you get notifications about those. And yeah, thanks for tuning into this premiere. We'll hopefully see you guys next week. And until then, don't forget to be more awesome.